Hi folks, I'm Kerry Farr. Welcome to In Your Corner. How many of you have ever seen the movie Black Hawk Down? You saw where our soldiers were destroyed there in Mogadishu. We actually lost 17 that night. Well, today, a good friend, J.T. Cooper, is here with us to talk about that experience because he was there on the ground. And we want to honor our soldiers. And J.T., it's such an honor to have you on the program. Good to see you, friend.
Thank you, buddy.
Well, let me ask you a question. I mean, that movie was pretty horrific, and I can't imagine that movie being as bad as it was for you guys on the ground. Give us a little background about Black Hawk Down and what actually happened during that period of time.
We had gone to Somalia we were going to be the QRF for the United Nations that were doing.
What is QRF?
Quick Reaction Force.
Okay.
In June, there was, let me back up, the end of June, 1st of July, there was 18 Pakistanis that were ambushed. They were relief workers that were there handing out food and supplies, and they were ambushed and attacked by some of the warlord factions that were there, and they would steal the aid that was coming in and resell it on the black market, so on and so forth. But most people understand that the United States is unlike any other fighting force in the world. So when they need fighters there to protect the aid workers, that was our job. We were there so that if UN forces came under fire, we were the quick reaction force that went out and stopped.
Was it strictly Army that was there, or did you?
No, there was a Navy ship. When all that happened, they actually had a naval hospital ship that was off the coast of Somalia, and when some of us were wounded and taken out, we were taken to the ship for care. I personally didn't go to the ship, but some of our wounded was taken out to the hospital ship. So there was Navy, there was some Marines, there was a lot of different countries. There was like 30 or 40 different countries that were represented there. The Tunisians guard pulled most of the guard at our particular compound. Pakistanis pulled guard around compounds, and so it was kind of a different kind of mission.
So when you guys landed, I mean, in the movie we saw, all of these skirmishes. What happened? Were you, did it happen immediately when you landed, or?
Actually, when we were flying over, we had to divert to Greece because they had mortared the airway, and we had to do a layover for 24 hours in Greece so that they could repair the runway they had to repair the mortaring of the airway before we could even land the jet.
Wow.
So when we got off, there wasn't any TSA checkpoints. There wasn't any. we had our weapons with us, and they made us take the bullets out of our rifles and guns, the bolts, so that we couldn't accidentally discharge. But we had our weapons with us. The stewardesses were having to work around our M16s and our M60s that were in the seat beside us and with us. So we're on a 737.
Yeah, you weren't on military transport.
It was a Tower Air 737, 747. I'm not an expert on aircraft, but we were on a civilian flight that went.
Wow.
So we were flying in, and I remember the first time I was a specialist in private, whatever you want to call it, but it was my first time flying out of the country. And we flew into Greece, and they were trying to explain to us over the intercom that we were having to make an emergency landing in Greece. And I'm thinking the plane's messed up. But then they told us that we couldn't land because they had just mortared the airfield in Somalia, and we were going to have to stay there until they got the. And I'm like, wow, this is not training. This is real. This is real.
Yeah.
I mean, they're mortaring the landing field where we're headed to. That's going to end up being something going on when we get there.
Well, did you come under fire when you eventually landed in Somalia?
I wasn't there. I don't know. They say that there was bullet holes in the plane when it got back to the United States. When we got on the trucks, when we come off the plane and we started going down, they were handing out ammo at the bottom of the stairs. So they were going to put us on transports and take us from there over to another compound where we would actually be staying. And we had the jet engines and all that stuff going on. So I didn't hear any small arms fire, but they said there were small arms holes in the plane when it got back to the United States. So they were actually shooting over the fence, over the walls, as we were coming in.
Wow.
We went from the airport to we were going to end up staying at the university compound. And all this was the 1st of August, end of July, 1st of August. And Black Hawk Down, as everybody knows, it would end up being on October 3rd. Was when that battle started, was October 3rd. So it was a couple of months away, but we were getting indoctrinated the minute we stepped in country that this is not necessarily just a peacekeeping mission. So
so what was it like on the ground there when you landed? I mean, you were there for a couple of months before the battle. Were people friendly, or was it? I mean, obviously you got all.
It was chaos.
You got all these Muslim fighters and stuff there.
It was chaos. Smell. As a country boy, the first thing I caught me was the smell, and there was salt water because we were close to the ocean, but there's no 7-Eleven on every corner. They don't have indoor plumbing. People, they may use the restroom in their house, but they do it in a bucket and take it and throw it in the street. There's no sewer. There's no sanitation. There's no electricity. There's no street lights. One of the first things that caught me, and I remember vividly that, there's no 7-Eleven on every corner. There's no gas station. There's no quick sack. And one of the things they taught us that, you just don't know and you don't think about. You don't offer somebody in the Muslim culture. In that culture, we were not to offer our left hand to shake because that's what they used to. Because they don't have Charmin, they don't have toilet paper.
That's what they use to go to the restroom.
They wipe themselves and try to clean themselves with their left hand.
Oh my goodness!
So if you offer your left hand to somebody to shake, it's an insult, and that's something a typical American wouldn't think, and I didn't know, but it was one of those things that they teach us when we're headed into this country. Some of the things to watch out for in this society, and it was one of the things that kind of lets you know up front that this ain't Kansas anymore.
Wow.
This ain't home. Dorothy and Toto, we were out of our element. And we were on a convoy in 1993 in Mogadishu, Somalia, was the first IED that was used against American soldiers.
Hold that thought, JT. We've got to go to a break. Folks, we'll be back in just a moment with this fascinating story with JT Cooper, who was on the ground in Mogadishu. Stay tuned. We'll be right back in just a moment.
Hello, I'm James Payne. God has raised up a great friend of mine, Kerry Farr, with a ministry unlike any other. It's called In Your Corner. I want to encourage my friends that are watching this program to get involved with Kerry and his great ministry. He's reaching professional athletes around the world and people that normally would not come to church. I believe Jesus has raised up Kerry for this hour. And I want to encourage you to get in his corner and help him do what God has called him to do.
Okay, friends, we're back with JT Cooper, who was in living color live in Black Hawk Down, Mogadishu. You weren't actually in the movie, but you were on the ground and you experienced it. And you were telling us an amazing story just before we went to the break.
Well, when we were traveling from the airport over to the university compound, they experimented with the first IED, one of the first IEDs used against American soldiers since Vietnam. In Vietnam, it was more jungle, and they were anti-personnel stuff. But they blew up a 500-pound bomb under one of our Humvees and killed 4 MPs, and all we found was a couple of torsos and a engine block. So we knew right up front, real close. Like I said,
This was serious.
The Black Hawk Down thing happened in October, but we were losing people in early August. So there were a lot of things that happened besides what was just in the movie. And, 214 and my infantry unit was there from some of them got there in the middle of July, and the main force of us got there the first week of August, and we were there till the end of December. And, that Black Hawk Down part was October 3rd and 4th is what everybody thinks about. But we were there for the whole deal was up 6 months.
6 months. Well,
And-
something happened while you were there. I mean, you were worried. I guess I should ask, were you worried about getting killed? And I know that something happened to show you that God was going to preserve your life while you were there.
Well, obviously, anytime that you face a situation like that, you're going to deal with your humanity. And you're going to, the old adage is there's no atheist in a foxhole. And there's things that happen around you that you can't quantify and you can't understand and without faith. I mean, every day in our life, there's things that happen that we have to have faith to get through. But it's amplified over there in Mogadishu when bullets are flying and you're trying to figure out why you and not them and back and forth. So, you have a lot of conversations with something that that's directing things that are bigger than you are.
But weren't you in a firefight one night and something came very close to...
I was a 60 gunner, and when you fire an M60, the minimum you can fire it's 6 to 9 round burst. Every time you pull the trigger, it's 6 to 9 rounds, and it's kind of like turning on a fog light or a headlight, and it's like, hey, I'm over here. Instead of just shooting at me, they were firing RPGs, rocket propelled grenades, and there was at least a dozen fired at me in one time. And I kept moving and kept trying to get, move my position so that I could be away from that RPG. But there was finally a point where it's got me. I saw the RPG fire, I saw the smoke, I saw the trail, and it was like that slow motion car wreck. And it was headed right for me, and I'm like, well, this is the one. And there's just no way I can get away from it. I had nowhere to go.
And you had no fear because it was so quick, or?
Well, I didn't have anything. I was like, well, this is the one that's going to get me. And all of a sudden it hits the wall, and it just falls, and it didn't explode.
It was a dud.
It was a dud.
Praise the Lord.
And sitting there looking at that dud, I tell my lieutenant, I was like, I've got to move. And he's like, hold your position. I was like, I got to get out of here. There's a dud right here. And then all of a sudden it's like, God's like, I've got this. You're going to be okay.
Wow.
You're going to get through this. If I wanted you to dead, you'd die.
You would have been dead then. So you really... Now let me ask you a question. Were you a Christian at that point in time?
I bought fire insurance when I was 11 or 12, and I had been to church.
You mean you said a prayer?
And I said a prayer and told God that I didn't want to die and go to hell, but I didn't understand the difference in religion and relationship. And it would be several years after, I told God, when I got back from Somalia, my roommate had gotten killed, and Cornell Houston was there, and I had actually done some work bandaging his wounds and had his blood on my hands. And my friend Jimmy Joe was on the other side of town, and I heard over the radio that he got killed, and I couldn't be there for Jimmy, but I'm here for Cornell, and I was doing everything I could for this guy. And there's a time when you get home from all that and you come back and you turn in your weapons and they say welcome home, and you go home and you don't have that friend anymore and you don't have that weapon anymore, and you sit there and you start arguing with God about why did you live and they died.
So you felt guilty because you were alive.
Jimmy died and he had a wife. Cornell died, he had a wife and kids, and I'm alive. And I don't get it. I mean, why am I here and they're gone? And 20 years later, you come to realize it was survivor guilt, and you were trying to, why is my life worth something when theirs is gone? And you got to get past that. You got to get, I sat there and I told God, I said, if we don't work something out in the next 6 to 9 months, I'm going to come see you face to face, and we're going to have a chat. And I went through that period and everybody there's a big word today that everybody's, PTSD and post-traumatic stress syndrome. Back in 93, it wasn't that prevalent. I mean, we were a small number. We were 300 soldiers that came back, and they really weren't overly concerned in how we adapted when we came back. So we had to fight through a lot of that stuff ourselves because it just wasn't newsworthy. It wasn't big enough to be newsworthy that we were having problems coming back.
Well, JT, we've got a minute and a half left. Tell us a little bit about your relationship with Jesus Christ.
Today I know that I have to be a soldier. Once a soldier, always a soldier. And when I came back, I needed a mission, and I needed something. As soldiers, they teach us that we need to be about the mission, and the mission is worth giving our life for. The mission is worth, but I didn't know what that mission was. And coming into a relationship with Jesus Christ, I realized that I had learned to be a soldier to know so that eventually I would know who to be a soldier for. And that giving up your life for the mission is the greatest sacrifice a soldier can make. Giving up your life to Jesus Christ is the greatest sacrifice a soldier can make.
Amen.
And if you're going to give up your life and you feel like you've got nothing to live for, then give it up to somebody that can use it for more than what you can. I come to realize that relationship is knowing that I have a mission. Relationship is not just worried about somebody sitting up there with a lightning bolt ready to hit me when I do something wrong, but it's about knowing that it ain't about doing something right or wrong, but about doing something with purpose, and your life having purpose, and your life having something bigger than you. And being a Christian allows me to see that there's a need for me.
Okay. JT, it's been a real pleasure having you on the program today.
Hi friends, I'm Jimmy Snow, son of country music legend Hank Snow. Back in the early 50s, Dad and I had the joy and privilege of traveling with the king of rock and roll, Mr. Elvis Presley, and we became very close friends in those days. He actually offered me a part in one of his movies called King Creole. But you see, I had turned my life over to Jesus Christ at that time, and I walked away from my entertainment career. I gave it up to become a preacher of the gospel. You can actually see my story in an upcoming program hosted by Carrie Farr called In Your Corner. That's In Your Corner. And by the way, I would like to encourage you to become a partner, a prayer partner with In Your Corner. Go to the website. It's inyourcorner.tv. Register and sign up. You'll get a whole bunch of free books and free videos just by signing up. And while you're on the website, can I encourage you to support this program financially? God bless you.
Okay, folks, we're back with good friend Justin Sullivan. And Justin, before the show today, you told me an amazing story. Would you share that with our audience, please?
I'd be glad to, and it's good to be here with you, Kerry.
Good to see you, brother.
We used to, when I was a lot younger, we traveled around, and one summers we did 53 little churches around, local churches and things like that, and I got to hear a lot of pastors tell stories and revivals and things, but there was one that really stood out to me, and it got kind of deep and kind of made you, it kind of grabbed me in my heart. I've never really forgotten it, never really gotten over it. A preacher got up and told about a young couple. Evidently it was in a foreign country where they had castles, maybe Germany or somewhere, and they fell in love. They were a very wealthy couple. After they'd been married a little while, they were to be awarded a son. The trouble was, during birth, the mother lost her life. So the father was left to raise the son by himself. But he took the task and loved the child. He reminded him so much of his mother, a lot of his mother's ways. At a young age, the boy took up art. And he gave him lessons, and he got quite good, but he really fell in love with fine pieces of art, and they had the wherewithal, the means, and everything to be able to purchase Rembrandts and Picassos, and they had a gallery there in their castle that they would display this artwork. So the father was a good man, and he would open the doors of the castle and let the villagers from down come up and view the artwork, and love for them to come and visit. And the young man, at about 18 years old, there was a war going on, and he felt the need to go and fight. And against his father's wishes and will, he said, I really want to go fight, Dad. I need to do this. And he said, it's not our war. We don't have to do this. He said, I feel this need, an urgency to do this. So he went into battle, and as 10, 12 months went by, and there was a knock at the gate, and the father went to the gate, and there was a young man there, and he said, Sir, I regretfully have to come to you to tell you your son has been killed in battle. And the father was devastated. That was his only child. He loved his son, and now he was gone, and he became reclusive. He shut the doors, and he didn't want to come out, and didn't want company, didn't want to visit, and didn't want to associate. And some time went by, and I think it was like 10, 12 months, and there was another knock at the gate. There was another young man. The young man said, Sir, please don't shut me out. Said, I have to express something to you today. He said, I knew your son. We fought in war together. He said, we spent a lot of time together. He told me about how you loved artwork, and he did, and he was a fine artist and stuff, and said, we got to know one another quite well. He said, I'm sorry to tell you, your son is dead because of me. He said, it may not be what you think, though. He said, there was a hand grenade thrown. It landed very close to me, and I never saw it. He said, but your son cast himself upon the hand grenade and took the full brunt of the force and was killed. He said, I couldn't get it out of my head, and he said it started to haunt me. It started to be in my memories, and every time I lay to bed, it was in my dreams, and he said I was about to go crazy. He said they studied me. Some psychologists came to me and were trying to work with me, and one of them pointed out a way of trying to heal was to take what I was envisioning in my mind and put it down on paper, whether it be a poem, a song, artwork, something to take that vision out and put it down on some paper, just to get it out of my mind. He said, I thought I can maybe draw. I'm no singer, I can't write songs, no poetry, but he said, I'll make an effort at drawing. He said, I put it down on paper, and he said, the next step in my healing is to give this away. By me giving it away, I'm removing it, and it allows me another chance to heal some more. He said, I know you don't know me, and I'm nobody, but if you'll accept this piece of artwork, it'll allow me another chance to start living again. The father didn't know if he wanted to see that picture, knowing what it was and who it was. He decided finally, well, if it helps this young man to get better, I'll look at it. I'll take it. He said, I'll accept the picture. So the young boy turned around with the picture, and the father's heart just melted. His eyes swelled, the tears rolled down his cheeks, because he saw then his son was gallant. There was bravery on his face. He loved what he was doing. He knew what he was doing. He was going to take this brunt of this for his friend. He was willing to lay his life down. The Bible says no greater love hath any man than to lay down his life.
For a friend.
He laid his life right there. And the father saw that, and he said, oh, and he said, yes, I know nobody could buy this piece of art from me. This is mine. I'm going to name it the Son. And he cleared back a spot on the gallery wall, and he put that right in the middle of that, and he shined a light on it. And he opened the doors of the castle, and he welcomed the people to come back in and see my art. But look at this one. This is my favorite one. This is the Son. This is the Son.
This is my Rembrandt.
This is the one that I'm most proud of.
Yeah.
This is the one I love. And if I get emotional, it's okay. It's all right for us to cry, because this really strikes at my heart. So the people were coming, and they were looking, and he would always take pride. This is the Son. This is the one I'm most. These are Rembrandts and Picassos, but that's the Son. That's my son. Well, a few years later, the father passed away also. And during the looking about his properties there and things, they found the will that the father had left. And it had a degree in it that said that there was to be a great auction. It was put out all over the world. Fine museums were to come and participate in the auction of this artwork that was now able to be bought. For 2 weeks prior to the auction, the little village was just abuzz with people coming in from all over the world to take a chance at buying this artwork. The day came for the artwork to be sold. Some of the villagers knew this would be their last chance to see that artwork. They'd never see it again. So some of them went up on the hill and out in front of the castle lined all these fine pieces of art. Auctioneer gets up, strikes the gavel a few times to get the attention. Says, folks, we're about to begin the auction, but I want you to know today we're going to follow the Father's will. We have His will. And it states in the Father's will that there's one picture to be sold first. It was a favorite of the Father. It's not by a known artist, but it's to be sold first. And here it is, and they set that picture of the Son up on the platform to be bid on. He said, do I have a $500 bid anywhere, going once, anywhere? Do I have a $400? 3, 2, 1. Do I have an offer? One of the villagers thought, this was his favorite piece of art. This is what he took most pride in. He loved this. And I've got the opportunity to own this piece of artwork. This could be mine. He raised his hand and said, I have $25. Auctioneer says, I have a $25 bid. 30, anywhere, 40, anywhere. 25 is the bid. Going once, twice, sold. And the gavel struck. He said, this concludes today's auction, for it is in the Father's will. He who accepts the Son gets it all.
Amen.
That's good stuff.
That's an amazing story.
That's good stuff.
Justin, thank you for sharing that story. And friends, you know, when you get the Son, you have everything. You have life eternal.
Amen.
We invite you today, you don't have to even pay $25. All you got to do is say, Lord, I'm a sinner, forgive me of my sins, come into my life and save me, and you'll have the Son, and you'll have the riches of heaven for eternity. Ask Christ into your life today. And Justin, thank you so much for being on In Your Corner today, brother. It was a real pleasure seeing you.
Thank you.
Folks, we'll look forward to seeing you again next week on the next edition of In Your Corner.